Ooh, wasabi guys. Now, in case you didn't watch my previous video regarding this topic here of the Hour of Devastation storyline, I did get up to about the halfway point of the episodes that they have. So I think I got to around like the fourth one, and there's 8 total. So I'm going to be basically going over the last 4. For those of you who aren't caught up yet, at the halfway point, basically 3 of the 5 gods were killed, all of which died at the hands of the Scorpion God. Just a badass son of a bitch. He's just running around Amonkhet, just stabbing them in the face, and when they least expect it, I mean, they think they killed him, then he just reanimates and just, comes up from behind and stabs them in the head with his stinger and just injects a lot of his god poison into him, which is just very confusing, but it is what it is. So if those of you who don't know how that happened, that's basically Nicol Bolas's whole design here. It's basically his way of just unleashing all these plagues upon Amonkhet for reasons that we really don't know, to be honest. I guess he's just trying to have fun, but who knows. So basically after that, after those 3 gods died, we had Bantu. Basically, she just betrayed the gods. I don't remember exactly how she betrayed him, but apparently she has a lot of Eternals that serve her. She has like the mummies and the zombies. We all know that. But apparently she's very, she bowed before the god pharaoh Nicol Bolas. And I guess she just, vowed her servitude to him or whatever. So Hazaret is basically the only other god that she's skeptical, but she's not like completely against the god Pharaoh at this point. So she goes up to, or she tries to approach the throne of the god Pharaoh where he's sitting there, and Bantu's there, and it's like, "What are you doing, sister?" And he looks at, or Nicol Bolas, he's looking at Bantu and basically says, "Kill your sister." And she says, "Yes, okay, I will." So they get in a fight. Bantu, she ends up biting Hazaret's arm, and just like, I guess it goes limp or something, and then whatever happened, and then Hazaret just ended up becoming paralyzed, and then Bantu just dragged her all the way up to the throne and wherever Nicol Bolas was sitting there, and just said, "Here's the offering here," or whatever. And then Nicol Bolas just lifted up one of his claws, and like a badass, he just like zapped her with lightning, and Bantu just, fell down or something. And it's just really cool because then he just says like, your usefulness to me is over now." So, like an asshole, he basically just uses people, and just as he's willing to just dispose of them whenever he feels like it, because honestly, Bantu, relative to the people of Amonkhet, the gods are powerful, but relative to the multiverse, keep in mind, their power really isn't that much. And even when you talk about the Gatewatch, their power isn't that powerful when you consider compared to the multiverse and just all the power that is possible and just the potential for greatness. And you have all these awesome planeswalkers, but the Gatewatch is really weak. But I'll get to that later. So then we just see Bantu just basically just gets up and just starts screaming or something, and all these zombies and mummies or Eternals, I don't even remember specifically what they were, but they were considered the dead, I guess, and they were just, flying everywhere because, they were all piled on top of her, and then she just got up and just started yelling at Bolas or whatever, and then I forget what happened. I think the zombies just started devouring her, and they just decomposed her or something like that. So I think that chapter sort of ended with Hazaret just like looking up at the god Pharaoh flying away, and she was like paralyzed or something. And then they go into the next one, which was just, it was really bad. I didn't like the next chapter. This was 6, I believe, and it was just the Scarab God walking through, and you had all the Eternals just, doing their own thing, and you had, I don't remember her name, but there was this one girl with a spear, and she tried to throw it at Nicol Bolas. And she ended up failing, and he just looked at the spear, and it fell to the ground. He's like, "In another life, you might have been useful to me." And then he just flew away. So right off the bat, this story, he doesn't really care. He's not actually trying to kill anyone, or he's not actually trying to prove that he's strong, because honestly, he's just waiting for someone to match his level of power. And it's very evident as we go on later into the story. So then the relevant part comes in, I believe, chapter 7, which was really when it started getting good. We have Samut and Jeru, who are two very relevant characters to the storyline. They're the two humans on Amonkhet that are actually worth anything, really, when you think about it. They're joined by Hepatra and all them. So they're fighting the Eternals. They're trying to restore whatever they can of, Noctamun, or whatever the city they live in. And meanwhile, they have to, but at the same time, in order to save their people, they do have to run away and try to reassemble any sort of force they can to try to retake the city if they possibly can. But then they end up running into, I believe, Neheb the Eternal. That was the guy's name. He was originally Neheb the Worthy, very good fighter. They started fighting him, and eventually, I think Gideon helped them out, killing him or whatever. So he ended up if I'm not saying this clearly enough, I apologize, but I am paraphrasing just off of what I read, and I don't retain literally every single detail, so I apologize in advance if this is a little incoherent for you guys, but it is what it is. I'm trying to do my best. So I think Gideon helped them just kill Neheb the Eternal. So that right there for Gideon shouldn't have been too hard, but for Samut and Jeru, it was a bit of a challenge for them because Neheb is still very powerful in eternal form. So anyway, they do catch up with Hazaret, and I believe this was when she was right in the middle of running away from the the Scorpion God, and we all know how that went for the other three gods that tried to fight the Scorpion God, so we all know, you better run, bitch. And she did pretty well running away. I mean, she is the god, she's the red god, so we know that she's, filled with all that haste. So we do expect her to be a little bit quicker than the other gods. So she was able to dodge the majority of the Scorpion God's attacks until the Scorpion God actually pierced her right in her dead arm, the same arm that Bantu bit down on her with. And it didn't hurt her because that arm was dead. It was just dead weight and flailing around. So basically, she then tries to defend herself, and then we just see Samut and just a bunch of I think her followers or whatever. And then there was this Kenra that just comes out of nowhere with Ronus's spear or staff or whatever it was, and she just comes up to the Scorpion God and just knocks it back with the full force of the staff. And it was hilarious because, I mean, now we finally see that even without the rest of the gods, just one of the gods there, it took humans to actually do any real damage to the Scorpion God. And they got together, they flanked it, they tricked it, and they tripped it up onto, and then they stabbed it on an obelisk. So it fell backwards and stabbed itself on an obelisk, and then Hazaret comes up and basically just stabs it with her staff or her whatever weapons they have. I don't know specific names. Fuck me, right? So I'm sorry again. If I am a little incoherent, I am not drinking. It's just I'm paraphrasing. Really cool story, though, because then Samut, after all that effort, she finally has her Planeswalker spark ignited. We were wondering, like, when is it going to happen? Well, it happened in the 7th episode, or the chapter, or whatever they're called, really. And she deserved the Planeswalker spark because she was, I guess, really helping out the effort there to kill the Scorpion God. So I guess that's just what you do to get your Planeswalker spark. You have to actually act like a badass. So there you go. That's why she's a Planeswalker now, and she Planeswalked somewhere else, and she didn't know where the hell she was. One thing I hate, the fact they don't actually mention where she Planeswalked. You just kind of get like a little hint as to, oh, here's, I don't know, she might have gone to Theros, or who knows, but then she just returned back into the warm embrace of Hazaret, and I think that's just how it went. That's how it ended. And she's like, oh, child, you're a Planeswalker now. What the hell are you? We don't know what Planeswalkers are on Amonkhet because all we know is Amonkhet. And then so we go on to the interesting shit here, the final chapter. And this is what we've all been waiting for. The 5 cards that we see, they're all the defeats of the Planeswalkers. Now, how does it go exactly? Well, they all meet up with Nicol Bolas, and they all try to surround him and do their own thing. And you have Jace with his mind tricks, you have Liliana with the undead, you have Chandra with their flames and shit, and you have Nissa with her vines and all the earth shit and her elementals and whatever she's trying to do. And you have Gideon with his invulnerability, which is just stupid, to be honest. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Gideon's the dumbest one out of the bunch. Nobody likes him. And quite frankly, I don't like any of them. Maybe Liliana gets a pass because she's actually kind of powerful, but the rest are just stupid as hell, and I don't like them. Jace, here's how the battle basically goes. They kind of do their own thing. They start off, and then Gideon goes with his whole invulnerability sphere thing, and Nicol Bolas just starts flailing him around with his tail and just starts smacking him into the walls and the obelisks and all the monuments of Amonkhet and stuff, and he's just having his fun with him, just with his tail. I mean, he doesn't have to try hard. Chandra and Liliana, no, not Chandra, Nissa and Liliana are, fucking with his feet or something with, like, vines and zombies, and he's just kicking them around and just cutting them up, and he's not even trying that hard. And you have Chandra just trying to, flame him up there, which is just the worst matchup ever. Yeah, let's just set a dragon on fire, like that's ever worked. And you have Jace, who does his mind tricks and crap. So the first one who gets it is Jace, because he tries to enter Nicol Bolas's mind, which is really stupid, because I'm not like a huge nerd when it comes to like the lore and anything like that, but I do remember someone telling me that Jace, I didn't actually read this, but someone told me that Jace compared trying to get into a telepathic fight with Nicol Bolas was like a butterfly fighting a hurricane or a tornado or something, man. And when you have that comparison, what makes you think that even with you have like 4 other planeswalkers helping you out, why would that change that much? So he tries to enter Nicol Bolas's mind, and he's like, oh my god, it's smooth like obsidian. I can't enter it. There's like no crevices or anything, no faults or cracks or anything that I can enter, until Nicol Bolas actually talks to him and says, why are you bothering trying to do this? If you wanted permission, all you had to do was ask. And so he just lets him into his mind, and Jace is just like, holy crap, man, you're letting me into your mind. This is so cool. I can finally enter your mind. And then and then Nicol Bolas just basically just says, welcome to, this is my world, bitch, basically. This is the dream world, and this is my world. And so he just kind of shatters, he fucks with Jace's mind, and he's just screaming, and he tries to planeswalk away. And Liliana's just looking at him, is just like, oh my god, those screams that he's screaming right now, that's of the dead, that's of the dying. And so he planeswalks away, and we all know that he's probably going to end up on Ixalan, and he might be shirtless. This might be Castaway, where he's just talking to a fucking volleyball the whole time. I don't know. But then the next one to go is Liliana, and believe it or not, she doesn't actually get harmed or anything like that. She just chooses to walk away, and while she might do it reluctantly or depressed or whatever, regretfully or who knows, she does it mainly because Nicol Bolas is just taunting her the whole time and saying, if you use the Chain Veil, because the Chain Veil and the Raven Man, they're basically just whispering to her the whole time because she has these thoughts in her head, and they're just saying, we can kill him if we use the Chain Veil, which is just bullshit. And Nicol Bolas just addresses that and shuts that down right there. That notion that you can beat me with the Chain Veil, not gonna work, pal. So he basically just says, even if you use the Chain Veil today, if you fight me, you will die, Liliana. So she's the smartest one out of the bunch, because she's just like, okay, I'm out of here. What do you want me to do? He just says, just go away. I will find you when I need you, and you'll basically become another herald, just like Tezzeret and Ralzeric. So that's basically how that goes. She goes away. Chandra gets pissed off. She's like, you traitor. And he's like, what do you expect of me? I mean, I'm kind of a bad bitch, and I do my own thing. I'm very nihilistic, and I've done this before, so what did you expect of me? So she goes away, and then Chandra's just like, oh my god, I have to find a way to kill this dude with my fire. And she basically just, all her flames and all her attacks, she tries to channel it in. She gives out the most powerful attack she can possibly give. It's like this white hot flame, and it's able to knock him back a little bit, but then Nicol Bolas just flies up in the air. He swoops down and just claws her and just basically breaks her ribs. And you know, she's a fucking mess now, and she's crawling over to Nissa and being like, you have to help me, or you have to, you know, get out of here or something, and she's just coughing up blood, and then she eventually planeswalks away, and Nissa's there. She has her elementals, and they're actually trying to fight Nicol Bolas, but then eventually he just has these tendrils just come up out of nowhere and just grab her. And this is all very similar to the artwork. You can see this too if you want to see this. Just look at the cards that say the defeats, and they will all basically show you how they were defeated. So these tendrils are just basically grabbing Nissa, and they're just choking her and suffocating her. Her elementals are obviously dead because she has no control over her mana anymore. And Nicol Bolas, if I could try to do my best Freddy Krueger voice here, he basically just says to her, "This is my world, bitch." And, you know, he's basically telling her, you know, I have control over the mana here. You know, the ley lines, they're mine. You know, you can't mess with me, man. I am basically the best. I am the best Earth Mage, I'm the best Necromancer, I'm the best Mind Mage, I'm the best Pyromancer, I'm the best everything all around, and you guys are just bits and pieces. You know, you were basically alive in the blink of an eye compared to me. And he's just taunting them the whole time. He's just trolling them, really. And I think at one point he does actually say to Chandra that, you know, I'm a pretty good necromancer too. What is the application process like for the Gatewatch? And he's just trolling him the whole time. It's just hilarious, and it really goes to show how unprepared they were. And I think we all knew deep down inside just how, you know, depressing this is, just to have the Gatewatch. And, you know, they're all cocky. They're all full of shit too. I mean, yeah, you were able to beat the Eldrazi, you were able to, you know, link Emrakul to the moon, you know, all that crap. So, yeah, I mean, I can't blame you for thinking you could stand a chance against Nicol Bolas, but, I mean, we all know he's basically, or at least he used to be, a god of the multiverse, not a god on, like, say a god like from Theros or Amonkhet, like a god relative to the multiverse. You know, these are gods relative to their own individual worlds, their planes. He was a god relative to the multiverse, so he's incredibly powerful. And if I had to say comparisons, I mean, we're talking like, you know how Nicol Bolas has Tezzeret? Well, you could compare that to, say, Galactus and the Silver Surfer. That's the best comparison I can give to you guys in just terms of his power. He's insanely powerful, and, you know, one-on-one against any of these planeswalkers, he's just going to absolutely just murder them without even trying. He just shatters their minds, and they're done. And that seems to be his consistent move here. And he does end up, you know, threatening Nissa and Gideon, and they both end up planeswalking away. He does grab Gideon, though, and he kind of just cuts through his shields like butter, and he ends up stabbing him. And, you know, Gideon's just talking shit to him this whole time, and he's just saying, "I'm gonna kill you," you know, which really is just hubris at this point. So he just tosses him aside, and he planeswalks away. And then shortly afterwards, Tezzeret does end up showing up there. He does planeswalk to Amonkhet, and Nicol Bolas just says, "You know what, you're late." And then Tezzeret's like, "It went as planned, and you finished them in the timely manner that you said you would," basically saying that, you know, he predicted when he was going to meet them, fight them, and then defeat them, because he's very, very powerful. And, you know, if anybody's could be omniscient in the multiverse, it would probably end up being Nicol Bolas, who would be all-knowing and powerful. But just incredibly just cool. And then he does mention finding Ralzeric and for a mission report or something, because they do own like the planar bridge, and, you know, they're extremely powerful now. So yeah, his heralds are hard at work, and he just had fun with the Gatewatch, and that's basically how the story ended up. Kind of anticlimactic for the complete different reasons that it was anticlimactic in the Oath of the Gatewatch and Eldritch Moon. Like, you had kind of overwhelmingly powerful enemies that were dealt with very easily, whereas you had a very powerful enemy that was just, I mean, it went as expected. They got defeated very easily, and it's almost to a surprise here. So let me know what you guys think about the story. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I know it is kind of to be expected. We did get these cards like a month in advance. We did know how the story was going to go. We knew how that they were going to be defeated. We just didn't know that they were going to planeswalk away in the end. It was my theory that maybe Ajani would have to come and help them out. Who knows? They might have had to enlist some other help in the multiverse. But really cool. It kind of leads the story open to return to Amonkhet one day eventually. We do have the fact that Hazaret is still alive. She is the only god that survives. So my prediction that all of the gods were going to die was obviously wrong. It makes sense. Her card is the only one that doesn't say last. It says Undying Fury. So that does make sense there in terms of flavor. And then we still have Samut and Giroux, their stories. I mean, we have a reason to come back, and in the end, I think that's what they want to do with the storyline, is they want to give us a reason to come back, and who knows, it might be a point to come back and just rebuild Amonkhet. Who knows, after this destruction, who knows, maybe Nicol Bolas might get bored of torturing their people. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to be signing off here. You guys have a wonderful day.